It's 7:07. I'm going to call this meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust to order. We are currently one member short of a quorum. The first couple agenda items are just discussion items, so we're going to just kick off that. First thing is update on 17 and 27 Upton Street. I don't know who would like to lead that discussion. I've seen a memo from Kathleen, but I don't think that went to the whole trust.
I just sent it out.
Oh, it's okay. So everybody might not have had an opportunity to review it, but Kathleen, if you want to maybe review what was sent out.
Well, I think it's very nice that we've finally gotten something like this, and I'm hoping that Mr. Brandt will be giving these more often, because there's been some question about what's actually happening, and so I think these reports are a good idea. I think he has supplied that report in connection with his request, which is, a letter that he has sent to us, which I think I sent to Amber a day or two ago, regarding an extension on his grant agreement. So that's something that has to be discussed by the trust at large. But I think he provided this information to the select board because, that's the people that he has a purchase and sale agreement with. And I'm sure that there's some, questions on their side about what's going on and what's happening. So I think it's interesting to sort of see the discussion he has with them about the environmental conditions on the property. I don't know how that's going to resolve itself, but as I said, most of this information, I think, is directed towards the select board as the sellers of the property.
So a couple of things in there were they just wanted a copy of the fully executed grant agreement, which is available on the town website. That seems like an easy one to just check off from if you need another copy of that. And something else that jumped out to me is they wanted a list of all of the payments they've received. I don't know why would we they don't have that?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, they maybe have to provide that to their lender. You would think that they would have that. They're the ones who keep sending them to us. So I'm sort of surprised that their accountant, who I've talked to just the other day, doesn't have that information available. But that sort of leads to a discussion, that should be in front of the trust, altogether, about, his request for more money up front. I have always been concerned about how much money we have been giving him, without shovels in the ground. And so, so maybe he's asking that question in connection with my concern that I've expressed to him that, I'd like to have him own it. I'd like to be able to say to the trust that, that he's met certain benchmarks, which haven't happened yet.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the the update that the select board got was good, and I take on board your comments about updates going forward. I think the trust and the select board both need much more regular just transparency with what's happening with the project. I'm happy to ask on behalf of the select board to John to be getting more regular updates, especially, we're in a pretty active part of and critical part of the project right now, right? The permitting and
absolutely
executing this land disposition agreement. So, one of the things he sent through was that is, being the lawyers are working on that on their end and on our end. And so that's good. But yeah, we need much more regular updates. So my sense of it is that it would be good to have more members from the Housing Trust before we really get into too much discussion about his request to us for payments.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yeah. I think we can't discuss his letter really without a full quorum. of the trust.
It does seem like, things are happening though. I don't know, for some additional discussion, I guess, he is, seeking a building permit, fee reduction in line with what we did with, what the select board agreed with for 8 Pine Street.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess just so the trust knows, that was originally on our agenda for this week, but in the prep meeting for that, Andy, I believe, asked to have some trust representation for that discussion, which I agreed with. So that should be coming up sometime in the near future, I would imagine, because obviously the building permit fees are going to have to be paid somewhat soon. So the select board will have to take some action on that. But so hopefully we'll have some trust involvement in that discussion, because obviously we're major stakeholders in that in that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And for the public's benefit, I guess, the permit fees that come from water, sewer, construction permits, that sort of stuff, the discounts or the relief that would go to the builder actually goes to the trust. So it's a way to help reduce the cost of these units that we've effectively bought through the grant agreement, and replenish some of the trust money that is being used for this project. So,
All right. I just heard from Nicole, she's running late. I don't know if we're going to get a quorum tonight. So rather than go too much further down the road on this one, unless there's any other, easy updates on that, we can just move right along to High Point Drive. Unless, Kathleen, did you want to talk about the draw request real quick? That way you don't.
I did. I wanted to get back to, Sandy, who sent them along, to say that we have some concern. People have evidenced some concern about payments that go to related companies of Mr. Grant's. And so I asked her to make sure that she informed us that they've actually, spent this money out, money's actually gone out the building to vendors for work that's being done on this project. And she sent a message to confirm that. So I'm happier with that request than I was before.
Okay. We don't have a quorum, so we can't really take action on this most recent draw request, but that's a good update to get. Thank you.
Yeah, I just told her that, we can't be just sort of getting these requests without, the fact that she's got the backup information for it.
And is she going to send you?
I don't, to a certain extent, it's a fine line that you have to draw. You've been sort of looking at everything with great detail, because then it sort of starts to look like it's a public project, which we don't want to have. So I think if somebody asks to see what the backup is, then I would say, yes, send me the backup. But I don't think we need to clutter Amber's mailbox and all of yours with all that stuff. But that's your decision. I mean,
I think there is a lot of interest in this project, and after just stating that if somebody requests, I imagine a request might come in.
Okay.
That would be my guess. So if they could do a summary, like just something like a summarized version of what you're describing, maybe that would be helpful to at least answer said request that I'm assuming will come.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. All right. And then the last thing, Kathleen, we're kind of jumping all over the agenda here. Sorry. The Community Preservation Grant Agreement. They had I know the trust voted on it last time. And then when it went to CPC for them to vote on it, they had some more changes. And the one that they're really adamant about changing is in section 11.
And I do not agree with that one.
Adding the and?
Nope.
Okay.
Because it's two separate things. 11 deals with us getting the approval of the restrictions. If they want a clause that talks about enforcement of the restrictions, that should be a separate item. It doesn't go in number 11. Number 11 requires us to make sure that we get our restrictions approved by the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. That's completely separate from enforcement.
Okay. All right. So we had there was a CPC member that said they would attend tonight. They have not shown up. So I can pass that message back to CPC. We'll take, not that we can take any action, but we're not going to take any action on the grant agreement tonight. Does people in attendance from the trust have any input they want to add to that? Okay. All right. So I will.
Yeah, as I said, Colleen, if they want to have a separate kind of discussion about the enforcement of these things, I mean, that's not, we're certainly not jumping into court on a regular basis if we, and Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, when it was DHCD, didn't really jump in so fast to enforce them either. So I think but that's a separate discussion, and it shouldn't, as I said, it shouldn't be tied to our getting this perpetual restrictions signed off by the department.
Okay. You got it.
So do you want to take the draft that was sent back by Ken, and I could make the typo changes and all that sort of thing and then send it back to him?
Sure. And if you maybe even want to just explain that one part. I know 11 was Ken had in the ultimately CPC agreed on a few of the, there's a couple, like a typo thing. But 11 was where they really said, this is our make or break. We want to add the and. Okay, so I'll go back but if the way you're explaining it, it makes sense why it was written the way it was. And, I think when we explain it back to them that this is why it's written that way, we're not the enforcement arm and it would take a separate section, I think they'll probably agree.
Yeah, and if they want to, as I said, the document speaks for itself in terms of enforcement. There's nothing that we can do that's any different than what's already in the restriction itself. So I don't want to have us have an obligation to do something that we won't legally be able to do because it's not provided in the restriction.
Right. Okay. Makes sense to me. Thank you for that. All right. Well, if that's, does anybody else have any other questions for Kathleen before? I mean, you're more than welcome to stay. It's a great time, discussing stuff, but.
Oh, I'm supposed to be signing on to the planning board meeting in my town so I can hear people arguing about MBTA communities. I just like to shoot myself.
Well, Milton should be a good time. Maybe we'll all join you after.
Life's a party, huh?
Live in Milton.
Well, you enjoy that. Have a good night.
Godspeed.
Good luck.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Fiona, thank you for being patient while I jumped around a little bit there. If you want to go into the High Point Drive and all of your wonderful suggestions and recommendations, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So last meeting, we discussed doing a feasibility study for the lots just because of some of the complexities that are on each and regarding, drainage. Brittany's on. Great. Drainage and ledge and steep slopes and such. So I spoke, I was speaking to other planners who've done something similar, and it's, I think that we, the trust agreed that it was the best process to do a feasibility study so that we can have as much information in the RFP as possible. I spoke with Laura Schufelt after we met last month, and she helped the town doing the drafting the RFP for 25 Worcester Street. And MHP has a really great technical assistance arm where they help communities who are disposing of public land all the time. And she made me aware of what's called the MHP Housing Opportunity on Public Land Grant Program application. She told, what and Amber was also on that call, and she relayed to me was the benefits of going that route over the kind of typical feasibility study, which we have to apply through the Community One-Stop Grant portal and could take some time, would require a match. This alternative it's basically a $35,000 forgivable loan. The title is confusing because it says grant, but it's a forgivable loan that only has to be paid back if development for whatever reason is canceled. So that was kind of a nice thing to know going in. It's not competitive, which compared to doing anything through One Stop, it's extremely competitive. It's a rolling deadline, so we're not on the hook to apply by June. Obviously, we do want to get this application in as soon as possible, but just to compare the two options for the trust and give them a full, give you all a full kind of understanding of the differences between the two options. Again, no match requirement, faster start time, which I think is, a key thing as well. We want to kind of hit the ground running with this. MHP will handle basically all aspects of the site assessment, the procurement, drafting, and will assist with publishing, which is very nice. Just kind of have them make sure that this is getting out to as many people as possible. And yeah, they handle basically all the project management and will keep the trust abreast of updates as they come along. And the trust will be involved as facilitators, and obviously will review the RFP and review any future RFP responses. But MHP is really handling a lot of this, which is nice. So I'm just going to show, if I can share my screen. I think I can. Yes, I can. So it's a pretty standard application. This is what it looks like. I saved this. I kind of started working on it in preparation for eventual submittal, but it's just, basic name, contact information, role. I just put myself as the point of contact. I can change that if the trust would like. Information about the subject properties, acreage, address, the vision. I wanted to talk about what the trust would like if we decide to move forward with submitting this application. Just want to make sure that I have the vision stated correctly and in line with what the trust would like me to say. So maybe we can talk about that in the quorum. And I just explained a little bit about the history of High Point, the litigation that was involved, and from there just uploaded all of the associated attachments. So it's just a one-pager. It's very simple, very nice. And Laura at MHP basically said, this is what the trust is trying to accomplish with these 3 lots is exactly what this program is designed to do. So will be looked upon favorably. So I just wanted to kind of talk about the vision piece, and then I would like to get a vote this evening from you folks authorizing me to submit the application on your behalf. And it does call for a letter of support in the supporting documentation section. So I was thinking that it might be useful to have the trust take a vote to write a letter of support for the application with the assistance of staff, and I can include that and send it off. So happy to talk through any questions you have about the program and the vision, and then the comparisons between the two options that we have available to us. But this one did seem quite competitive and a good alternative to what we discussed at the last meeting.
Thank you so much for finding this and bringing it in. Thank you to Laura for suggesting it. I'm a big fan of going down this route. I don't know how everybody else feels. And welcome, Brittany, by the way.
Yeah, sorry guys, I was late. It sounds great though, Fiona. Thank you.
Awesome.
Dan, do you have any feedback at all, or?
It sounds great. I didn't know this existed, so yeah.
Me either.
Thanks.
Do you want to talk about the vision a little bit before we take any action? Or unless Matt, do you have any?
No, I'm in support from what I've heard. Yeah, sounds
Okay.
good.
Yeah. So I just kind of took a stab at it for discussion, just said, the trust envisions building affordable housing on at least 2 of the lots, because we were not sure if we're going to do market rate for one. I'm thinking that the trust would want to do some deeper affordability levels than the standard 80% AMI. So let me know if that's not accurate. Yeah, that was kind of the big thing that I wanted to confirm. I mean, I don't think that you need to have that nailed down, but I think if that's something that's being considered, it should include it in the application.
The last line may also choose to keep the 3 lots affordable. Right now, only 2 are though. So I don't know if that's misleading to say we're keeping the 3rd one
Okay.
affordable.
Okay. And then the actual structures themselves, I wasn't sure if the trust was interested in multifamily duplexes, single family, whatever, I just kind of left that open as well.
Did they have any examples of similar situations and what they had for a description?
Right.
That's a good question. I did not get any. I did not get that, but I can ask Laura before we agree to send this in and follow up with her.
I like the idea of including as many styles of homes with as many homes as we can provide, that'll still, match the character of that community. But, depending on what the responses look like, then we can, go from there kind of thing. I think keeping it broad at this stage makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just giving the developers as many options as possible to try to make it as attractive, so that we can get as much interest as possible.
Perfect.
All right. Does anybody else on the trust have any more feedback or input at this point?
So the 50 or 60% AMI, would that require anything from ZBA to approve? Like, would that be changing from the 40B comprehensive permit that's already in place? Like, I know if we did like duplexes or multifamily, like those, I'm pretty sure would require approval. So I don't know about the AMI thing.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I should have checked it. Let me see if I can just pull up.
Probably doesn't need to be answered before we submit this, I'm guessing. Since the way this is worded definitely includes options that don't require approval from ZBA.
Yeah, I don't know that, and I think I can. Yeah, maybe leaving it broad, covers us, but we'll need to have that answer anyway. So yeah, I think that it's 80% AMI in the contract.
I couldn't imagine the ZBA not approving, a lower AMI. I mean, that I could imagine them possibly not approving additional units, but maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. But the AMI thing, I really can't imagine them saying no to that. It seems like an odd thing, but yeah.
Yeah, Laura at MHP made a point to say that this would be another comp permit application.
Okay.
So my understanding was that we would do an application to the ZBA to cover all 3 and then have the flexibility to do what we would like. But
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The nice part is, there's a community currently in Grafton that's a 40B where it has, at least I think it's a duplex, but they look like a single family home. And so that's nice knowing that just creating multiple homes, but still going to keep with the style of the neighborhood and everybody should be happy, So I'd love to see something like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that around town where there's buildings that look just like a single family home. And then you look closer and there's, 2 to 6 mailboxes on them.
Mhm.
And otherwise you wouldn't really know.
All right.
Yeah, all down South and North Street, Dan, to your point.
All right. If there's no more discussion, I can take a motion to authorize Fiona to apply on the trust's behalf and to write a letter of support for the application.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those by roll call. Dan?
Aye.
Brittany?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Colleen, aye. All right. Again, thank you so much, Fiona. That's awesome. Pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I'm very excited too. I will get on that tomorrow.
Thanks. All right. So next up is select board report.
I don't have much in the way of a report. I did send along the update from Brendan Holmes on 1727, which we talked about a little bit tonight. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to send them along. That's about it, really. I think we will have a discussion over the next month or so about permit relief, construction permit relief for 1727. And I believe that there's going to be some trust involvement in that discussion. So that'll be coming up. But that will be up to the select board chair, how they organize that piece. I think it's about it from my end.
Okay. Next up is goal review to schedule an outreach meeting. I know we talked about doing that at our previous meeting. Did we discuss a date? I don't remember.
No. Where we left it, Ed said he was going to reach out to Apple Tree Arts.
Okay.
I don't know if that happened.
It did not.
Okay.
And is there any chance you could reach out to Apple Tree Arts, find some dates that might be available to them, and then I would probably say late June or July, because we got to meet again to discuss those dates and then plan for it, right? That works.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Next up is the draw request number 22, invoice 25-0500-04 for $4,361.94. Kathleen did give us an update on that previously, and if everybody's comfortable with it, we can approve that draw request.
Yeah, I feel comfortable with it. I would like just a simple confirmation from GSX on the date and the amount that they paid. Kathleen's commentary was that she wanted some assurance that it was like money out the door.
Mhm.
So, I don't need to see a copy of the check, but I would like, I'm happy to approve it tonight, but what I'd like to see is just a statement that we paid this amount of money to this entity on this date, which matches the request that has come to the trust.
Okay. It was my understanding she was going to try to get us some kind of summary version of that.
Yeah, some backup detail, other than just a verbal yes. But I'm sure that'll happen. So I'm happy to move forward with approving it.
Okay. All right. So I can take a motion to approve draw request number 22 for $4,361.94.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all by roll call. Dan?
Aye.
Brittany?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Colleen, aye. Declare the motion carried. We have set a meeting minutes from April 10th, 2025. Can I take a motion to approve those?
I make a motion we approve those meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those by roll call. Dan?
Aye.
Brittany?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Colleen, aye. All right. There's nothing left on the agenda, so I can take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those by roll call. Dan?
Aye.
Brittany?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Colleen, aye. Good night, everybody.